I want to welcome you to the city of Monterey Park and to our Bruggemeyer Library. If this is your first time here at the library, this is indeed the best library in the San Gabriel Valley, and I know I have some other San Gabriel Valley elected officials here. I'm sorry to break the news to you. I am so excited to be here today because of all of you who were able to make it today to have a serious discussion about where we are in Monterey Park a year later. And so I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. My name's Jose Sanchez, and I'm the mayor of the city of Monterey Park. And along with being the mayor, I'm also a parent. I have 3 little young daughters who are 2 and 3 and 6 years old. And I'm also a teacher in this community. I teach in the school district here in Alhambra. And so this community is very, very important to me because of that, but also because of I serve as mayor as well. But thank you so much for being here today. Today's discussion is really about where we are, not just here in Monterey Park and how we've healed in the last year, but where we are a year later just in general. Just to share some statistics that you guys are very well familiar with. This was 2023, perhaps the deadliest year when it came to gun violence. We had more mass shootings than there are days in the year. And for those of you guys who remember vividly, a year ago, the start of what was supposed to be the start of the Lunar New Year, a time of celebration, a time to be with family, was marred by gun violence. And so that dramatically changed not just our community, but it dramatically changed the San Gabriel Valley and how we operate. So today's goal, I hope, is not just a time for us to be here together and to share how we've healed and how we've moved on, but also to really create a call to action. What work is still needed and left for us to do to ensure that other communities like Monterey Park are not impacted by gun violence. And so that is the work that I think we are all tasked with today and that we are all tasked with in the future. I do also want to share some quick ground rules because I know we're all elected officials here and we like talking. So we have a 2-minute limit on talking and sharing because I know there's so many people here and we do have an agenda. We have a vigil that is after this roundtable. But I do want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today. It really means a lot for us here in Monterey Park that you're here, and it means a lot for us that you've made the time to be here, but also to share in this moment, a moment in history that I think many of us will remember for a very long time. I want to give, and we do have a list of dignitaries that will go. I want to give our Mayor Pro Tem, Thomas Wong, an opportunity to also share 2 minutes.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Sanchez. Appreciate everyone being here. I just want to add my appreciation to everyone that's here, both around the table and in the audience. Our community would not and could not have gotten through the tragedy and the trauma of the shooting 1 year ago today without the help of so many that are here represented. The social service providers, the nonprofits, our elected officials at all levels of government who came in and poured their support, our neighboring cities as well, and so many community members and volunteers and others who poured themselves and their hearts and their love into our community in the wake of the shooting. We would not have made it through and we would not have come out of this more resilient without so much work that's come in from so many of you. And so we wanted to gather, I want to make sure we're expressing, and I think you'll hear from many others, appreciation for your help in our community and coming into to Monterey Park. But we know this tragedy struck beyond the city of Monterey Park. It wasn't just a Monterey Park tragedy, but one that hit at the heart of so many throughout the region and globally as well, which is why there was attention paid to this shooting in our community by outlets and communities from not only here in the region in California and the United States, but throughout the world. And so as we reflect on the year that has passed since the shooting, and in the work that still is to come in the years and years ahead, we know that we will get through this, and we'll get we'll build more resilience, and we'll come out of this stronger only because we've come together to support each other. And so appreciate everyone that's poured into our community, and will continue to do that. We look forward to that continued partnership on addressing gun safety and gun violence prevention policies, many of which were led by some of the folks here around the table that I know will be sharing a little bit about their efforts to pass legislation at the federal, state, and local level, some of which we have adopted here in Monterey Park as well, and want to make sure that we're sharing with our neighbors, the neighboring cities here in the San Gabriel Valley and beyond. And we hope that that will be encouragement for you to adopt some of these policies as well. Making sure we're resourcing mental health services and breaking the stigma of access to mental health services here in our community, and particularly in the immigrant community that isn't English proficient. And there's a lot of work to do. I know the county is leading on some of these efforts to help to break that stigma, and to help just bring the community together, provide opportunities for the community to have hope and to heal as well, and to provide these safe spaces for the community. We could not do this without everyone here around the table in the room, so look forward to a much more continued partnership in the years to come, and we look forward to gathering like this again to continue to reflect on what else we can do together.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'd next like to invite our Congresswoman Judy Chu to share. There's been no better ally than our very own Congresswoman who lives here in Monterey Park.
Thank you so much, Mayor Sanchez, for putting on this event, and the whole council for making sure that we reflect on this year. It's sobering to think about what happened exactly 1 year ago. We had just finished a festive opening ceremony for Lunar New Year when we heard the shocking news that shook us to our core, when only 2 blocks away, a gunman murdered 11 people and wounded 9 others. And then there was the tremendous fear because the gunman was still loose. But there were people who stepped up. And I will never forget our first responders who tended to the survivors and the wounded. I will never forget Brandon Tsay, who wrestled the shooter to the ground, preventing him from killing others. And I will never forget Sheriff Luna leading us and then getting that shooter later in the day so that he was no longer a danger to others. At the time, I said we would get through it and that our community was resilient. And indeed, this turned out to be true. And I am so grateful to the federal government for answering my call to help. Immediately, Vice President Kamala Harris came and consoled the victims. And then our SBA Administrator, Isabel Guzman, came and toured the small businesses surrounding the area and got us to declare a disaster declaration so that those businesses could get low interest loans. Secretary of Health and Human Services, Javier Becerra, and later Ambassador Katherine, who's with us today, came to host a roundtable to get feedback from the community on ways that we could better address terrible traumatic incidents like this. And then President Biden came. He came to Monterey Park. I was with him as he consoled each of the victims' families individually, so empathetically. It was the ultimate act of healing. I'm so thankful that he then chose Monterey Park to announce his historic executive actions to reduce gun violence. And in fact, it was the feedback from these roundtables that he incorporated into that executive action. Since then, we've had groups come together, and I am so thankful to the Chinatown Service Center for putting together the Monterey Park Resiliency Center. I think it's gone a long way in helping our community to heal, because it's provided grief counseling, but also activities so that people can just be with one another, and also so that they can begin to dance again. Now, the great thing is that we have some opportunity to make it permanent using federal dollars, and I pledge to help you with that. I am asking that the Department of Justice's Office of Crime Victims Fund provide the monies from the Federal Anti-Terrorism and Emergency Assistance Program to make this a permanent program. And then, of course, we have to reduce gun violence. And that's why I immediately introduced my red flag bill. You see, this shooter was deteriorating mentally and accumulating ammunition. I'm sure somebody saw it. But in our community, very few immigrants know about the red flag laws. And so we need to have concerted outreach. That's what my bill does, require outreach in different languages and in different communities, and also provides community assistance to groups so that they can help those who want to use a red flag law get through the process. Ultimately, though, we need to have the bills passed that have been introduced in Congress that will stop this madness. And that is a true universal background check law that will shut down the loopholes that allow people to still gain those guns. We need a ban on those high-capacity magazines like this shooter had, which allowed him to take 42 shots in a matter of a couple of minutes. And we need to have a ban on assault weapons like we did for 10 years in this country, and we know that it reduced gun violence and gun deaths. So that's what's ahead of us, and I hope that we can work on this together. In the meanwhile, I think this community is so incredible, and it has shown such strength and has been able to support each other in such magnificent ways. So thank you very much.
Thank you. I would next like to ask our supervisor, Hilda Solis, to join us and share a few words. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mayor, and to everyone who is here. I know this is a very, how could I say, some sad occasion, one that reminds us of how much suffering this community has endured. San Gabriel Valley, Monterey Park, Alhambra, and all of the AAPI communities surrounding the entire country. This really brought us all together, and I want to thank everybody for all the hard work that they've done. But I'm in particular happy with the City Council for opening up their venues to allow the County of Los Angeles to work in partnership with you and the other entities. Believe me, this has caused us in the county to really rethink how we provide services. And one of the things that I learned from this tragic moment was that sometimes you make it up as you're going along. And that's okay as long as we're supporting each other. And that morning when I turned on the television, I think it was a couple hours before I heard about the killings and the injured individuals, and I thought, my God, how could this happen in our community? Monterey Park, a community that I have represented for a long time. So I immediately came that morning, and believe me, I thought it was, just something that I couldn't even fathom. And I know that our county was here, our sheriff, Mr. Luna, who I think he deserves a big round of applause because this wasn't even his first 100 days. And he had deployed all his staff and all his resources. But more than that, we also had our Department of Mental Health. And I don't know if Dr. Lisa Wong is here, but she did something very incredible. Not always does the county provide the type of services that are linguistically and culturally competent for these kinds of issues. But Lisa Wong, who's been working for us as our head of mental health services, provided that without a doubt, and she knew right away what to do. She has been conducting a lot of services here, helping to empower our communities, but she did something that's never done before, and that was to have a gathering of, because this is such a sensitive topic, to talk with people about death, mourning, and all of that, was try to convene people at the Langley Center and have tea, a welcoming place where people could sit down in their custom and not have to talk right away about anything, but just start to engage and feel that there was a place of comfort that they could come to. And Dr. Lisa Wong did that, and she had all of her interpreters in all the different AAPI languages available to do that. That was phenomenal for us. But more than that, I think that we continue to do that work, and also with our Department of Economic Opportunity, so the small businesses could also receive assistance. So we're going to work with this city, with Alhambra, with all of our partners, especially combating hate that continues to this day. And that has been a big part of what the county's been doing with the LA Commission on Human Relations, to make sure that we could provide training linguistically competent with our partners and making sure that people understand that. We have a long ways to go, there's no doubt about it, but we can't do it alone. And we count on you, and we count on our CBOs, our partners, but also our cities. Each of you should be carrying resolutions similar to what Monterey Park and I hope Alhambra have already instituted, because this fight will continue to go on, and it has to be taken to the ground, to our communities, to our neighborhoods. And I do believe that there are a lot of people who do understand what we're talking about. The county already, through some of our efforts, has passed 16 motions on gun violence since this started. We did that because of the resounding support of all our local communities that are coming together. And I also want to thank the Biden administration, because 2 days after this happened, I spoke to President Biden myself, and I told him what I saw, and I urged him to come out. And he said, well, I will do what I can. And he sent one of his emissaries, and then finally he sent the vice president, and then he came, which is great, because all the voices that we put forward value, and that means something. And he is not forgotten where we are today. So I just want to thank you. This is a day to really support the families and all the people that have come together, and to let them know that we are here united with you. We don't do it alone, we do it with all of you. So thank you, and God bless. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Supervisor. I would next like to invite Ambassador Katherine Tsay to share a few words. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It's a tremendous honor to be here with all of you in Monterey Park. I was here last May, and I met then with Congresswoman Judy Chu, and many of you then. It's really important for me to be back here with all of you today. Monterey Park, I just want to say, I don't know if you appreciate your centrality to the journey of so many Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, and Americans just in general. For me, I grew up on the East Coast. I'm very much an East Coaster who likes to come visit California. You may not know this about me, but I've been visiting California ever since I was a little kid. And the place that I came to visit was Monterey Park. I have an aunt and uncle who still live in the San Gabriel Valley. My grandparents, I would come visit here, and when I was here in May, we were driving in. We drove past the Marie Callender's coffee shop, where I just suddenly had this flood of memories of tagging along with my uncle and my grandfather to Marie Callender's, having a giant slice of that strawberry pie as a little kid. And that's me. Within the Biden administration, other colleagues of mine, I've been around them enough now to hear their stories about their connection to Monterey Park. Our acting labor secretary, Julie Su, who was your labor secretary here in California before she came to Washington, When her family moved to California from very, very cold Wisconsin, it was Monterey Park where they moved to in the 1980s. And she remembers very much the time when Monterey Park was becoming the first suburban Chinatown, and what the tensions were then, but also the community that was being built here, what that was like. Isabel Guzman, our small business administrator, I've also had opportunity to talk to her about Monterey Park. She's also a daughter of Southern California. She was recounting to me that she grew up just 2 blocks on the other side of the border in Montebello, and then on the other side in San Gabriel Valley. So what I wanted to convey to you is that you are such a part of us, and we are a part of you. It's been a year since the horrific occurrences here on Lunar New Year of 2023. And my brother, who now lives in Los Angeles, he and I were talking a little bit earlier today, and we were talking about why a 1-year anniversary is important. Why do we come together? And I think it's obviously to commemorate. It's about furthering our process for grieving. It's about showing up for each other. It's about being accountable to each other, that we remember, and to let each other know what we are doing a year later to make the community, to make our country a better place for all of us. I hope that you know that we in Washington, although we're very, very far away on the other coast, that we see you. I hope that you know that your heartbreak is our heartbreak, and that you've seen President Biden's message that he put out today. I hope you also know that you are also our inspiration, and that you see yourselves in what we are doing in Washington, that we are inspired by your hope, your determination, your strength, and your resilience. On the violence that happened here a year ago, gun violence has become a plague in America, and it tears at the very heart and soul of our nation. We established the first ever White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention just in the past couple months, and we're making sure that AA and NHPIs have access to culturally and linguistically appropriate resources and care, including mental health services for trauma from the federal government level. After something like this, we know there's no going back to business as usual. This violence threatens to rattle our communities across America, and we will not give way to fear and fright. More broadly, I hope you also see yourselves in President Biden's reestablishment of the White House Initiative and President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders. It is why we established the first ever national strategy to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for our communities. And this is also why our federal agencies are fighting for you every day to provide practical benefits like advancing equity in grant making, providing expanded access for communities with limited English proficiency. Our priority is to hear directly from you on your challenges so that your voices help shape the broader policies that we work on in Washington. We are here for you and with you to fight for the more perfect union, the dream that America is based on and that we pursue every single day. So as President Biden and Vice President Harris have said, our administration will continue to support you in every way that we can. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'd next like to invite our Lieutenant Governor, Eleni Kounalakis, if you can come up here. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for inviting me to be here. I believe it was a year ago, almost exactly, when those of us who came to the site of this horrific mass killing, you said the most important thing is that in 1 year we all come back to pay tribute to those who were lost and to show the resiliency of this community after the most devastating mass shooting in Los Angeles County. So To be here with all of you is a great honor. Again, even though, of course, what we are here to commemorate is such an extraordinary tragedy. I'd also just like to acknowledge the Biden administration for sending a member of the president's cabinet in you, Ambassador Tsay, and for the administration's commitment to recognize 1 year later that the work continues and to send you. It's wonderful to see you back here. I thought as Lieutenant Governor, I would just very briefly say a few things that sets California apart when it comes to this challenge of gun safety. We know, as certainly we heard from the Congresswoman, that the federal government must act when it comes to dealing with gun violence. But California has been able at the subnational level to do quite a bit as well, and it's made a difference. And I think it's important for all of us to know. In fact, according to the Giffords Law Center, California is ranked #1 for gun safety. Last year, we experienced a death rate that was 43% lower than the national average. This at a time when gun violence is the #1 cause of death of children in the country. We also know, thanks to some of the reporting and the work that's done at UC Davis at the Gun Violence Prevention Research Program, that since 2016, California's red flag laws alone have prevented at least 58 potential mass shootings. And that the same research has shown that our laws here in the state, again at the subnational level, have likely saved 19,000 lives in our state. So here in California, we also know that our gun homicide rate for youth was nearly 50% lower in 2022 than it was in 2006, and that since the early 1990s, California has cut its death rate in half. And if other states shared our gun death rate and had imposed the kinds of protections that we have here, that an estimated 140,000 Americans would still be alive today. So I know we have our Attorney General here, and he will probably speak about some of the things that we're doing in the legal sphere, and of course fighting some of the lawsuits that are brought against us for our bold actions. But I do think it's important that we know that even though statistics don't help the grieving families here in Monterey Park, that we know that as a state, we are at the forefront of combating gun violence through the tools that we have at our disposal. I also think it's important to recognize that under the leadership of the governor, we have adopted in our legislature the policy of advancing and calling for the 28th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. This is a process. It requires other states to do the same. But I'm very proud of this because in so many states where people experiencing gun violence look at each other and say, what can we do beyond thoughts and prayers? They can look to California and say the 28th Amendment proposal is a pathway forward. And then finally, I'd just like to say a word about mental health. And I know we have our Secretary of Health and Human Services of California, Dr. Mark Ghaly, here, and I'm sure he will say something on this point. There is so much to talk about with this administration's efforts to do more when it comes to combating mental health illness in the state of California, and in particular, having the kinds of laws in place that will protect us and protect our communities against those the kind of circumstance that happened here in Monterey Park. But this was a key reason for the tragedy that happened here. And on the ballot, coming up in March, you all will be seeing Proposition 1. And Proposition 1 is, if accepted by the voters of California, will do more in helping to combat mental health illness in the state of California, which, as we know, can make an enormous difference. And then finally, before I sit down, I just like to say one more thing that I was particularly struck with when I was here a year ago, in addition to the grieving of the families and the friends of those who were immediately affected by this tragedy, and that is the first responders. Our members of law enforcement who were the first on the scene, the firefighters who were the first on the scene, the hospital workers and the workers who were there. In so many ways, the way that we train our first responders is simply, well, let me say, I don't think that there's any training that can really help people be prepared for the kind of thing of coming in as a first response after this kind of a tragic nightmare situation. And to all of those who were there, who rallied around, who saved lives, and dealt with this horrific situation as it unfolded, they are all in our thoughts and prayers here today as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, our Lieutenant Governor. I'd like to invite our Attorney General, who's been an amazing ally since the tragedy happened. If you can share a few words. And thank you for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you, Thomas. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to say thank you to Mayor Sanchez and Mayor Pro Tem Wong for convening us, bringing us together. Thank you to you and your teams. I'm also very grateful to be in this room with so many incredible leaders coming together and supporting one another. I know many of you have come many times, as have I, and every time we come, it's important. So proud to be here again in unity 1 year later. And I want to say to the city of Monterey Park, its residents, the greater community and region, your courage and strength in the face of unspeakable tragedy is breathtaking and inspiring. And thank you for inspiring so many others to stand with you and fight in the same fight. And one of the things that's so important for us to do today is to honor and pay tribute to the lives lost, as well as the lives forever changed, those who have been scarred forever. It's also important for us to take care of one another and be together and support one another, lift each other up. And as part of being united and standing united, do everything in our collective power to ensure that a senseless tragedy like this never happens again. So that's about turning pain and trauma into purpose and change and action. And taking action, doing things. And I remember not long after the horrific shooting, Mayor Pro Tem Wong was speaking to me about the possibility of legislation, of going to Sacramento and returning home with new laws and new rules that can make our community safer. And they did that. They supported at least 2 bills, one that creates a new fund for violence prevention and gun enforcement and making our schools safer and supporting victims, and another one that creates relinquishment of guns from the hands of those who shouldn't have them as soon as they are forbidden from having them, when someone is convicted or they have a mental illness or a restraining order. So they have already turned pain into purpose and into action, and we need to continue that momentum and build it together. And as California's Chief Law Enforcement Officer, we're going to continue to do everything in our power to make our community safe from gun violence. We're defending our common sense gun laws in court, and make no mistake, they are under attack from the right. We have had our assault weapons ban struck down at a lower court level, our large capacity magazine ban struck down. Others are likely to as well, and then we get stays on those rulings. We reverse them at the circuit court and make sure that people continue to be safe because of our common sense gun laws. But it is becoming tougher and tougher, but we're committed to that work. We created the first Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the nation, proudly so. We're doubling down on red flag laws that work. We're doubling down on violence intervention programs that work. Ceasefire, peacekeepers, they make communities safer. And we need to do more of what the evidence and the data tells us will work to keep our communities safe. We also have the first and only of its kind program in the nation, our Armed Prohibited Persons System, where we know everyone who's purchased a gun in California and then everyone who's been prohibited from having a gun. And we remove the guns from the hands of those who have them, who are prohibited from having them, saving lives in the process. So there is more to do. We're committed to the collective work that's in this room, harnessing that power and that strength. Let me end by saying this. It's often been said that hurt people, but hurt people also heal, create hope, and take action, and create change. And so the other part of that phrase is healed people heal people. So let's be part of that healing of others, creating more hope, and taking action and creating change together. Proud to stand with all of you and grateful for your partnership and your leadership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd next like to invite Dr. Mark Ghaly. He's the Secretary of the California Health and Human Services Agency. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you for all the members of state, federal, local leadership, county leadership, our sheriff, others for being here. Dr. Mark Ghaly, Secretary for Health and Human Services, on behalf of the governor, I want to start by just heartfelt prayers, condolences with the families, friends, communities of the victims. We know that a year later, loss is hard to heal from, that it takes a long, long time. And I hope the common unity that is seen here today in this community is felt and supportive of all of those continuing to mourn. I have the privilege of working for the governor up in Sacramento, but he appointed me as a resident of Southern California. And in fact, I come to this area every single week twice. I come on Monday nights for my daughter to play basketball at the Boys and Girls Club right next door, and my son to play soccer across the street at Barnes Park on Thursdays, enjoying the farmers market, enjoying the hustle and bustle and cheeriness of this wonderful and diverse community. And every time I cross under the 10 to bring my kids here, I think about what happened a year ago. And the texts I receive and the calls I receive, talking to the supervisor, talking to others in this community, helping think through how the governor was going to show up and respond, thinking about the families and the victims, the survivors in the hospitals, and making sure that there was some connection there. And it was at that day, and I appreciate the Lieutenant Governor talking about mental health and behavioral health, and we start to understand what is behind those incidents, and it often is, whether it's of the most severe variety or that smoldering sense of isolation, loneliness that creates behaviors and tendencies that we know aren't always predictable and knowable in an individual, but we see that story time and time again. And as a pediatrician, a physician, leader of health for our state, we, in that moment, committed, especially given the idea that we'd been doing things for young people in behavioral health, but not enough for older Californians. We had a line available for help if you saw the issue and initiated it yourself. But it was on this day a year ago that, in talking to the governor and talking to my team and our teams across the state, that we committed to start addressing in a different way the behavioral health needs of older Californians, people over the age of 50, often overlooked. Medicare, some of our other programs, not doing as much as I think many of us would like. And although in California terms, a small but a very meaningful investment of $50 million started to come into fruition. Thank you to our legislature for approving that idea of the governor's to support our older Californians with behavioral health needs. What has that established? $15 million to begin to address stigma specifically among older Californians and people struggling with isolation, loneliness, and concerns around depression, anxiety that often don't get addressed. $30 million to go directly into communities across California to begin to build and work on programs that start to address those same challenges and issues. And other dollars that we are yet to program to support our state entities across the state to help support these efforts. I'm also proud to acknowledge that in this last year, we have done and continue to do a lot on behavioral health. That as we heard Prop 1 on the ballot in just a few weeks, but really the building up to this proposition was the historic changes on a 20-year-old law that brought in billions of dollars to address behavioral health. But can we do more? Should we be doing more on prevention and early intervention? Prop 1 says we should, and we hope that we get that chance to do it. And then just this week that we know that this issue of violence, the issue of behavioral health, is an issue that is transcendent above communities into families throughout our state, and that young people need support, need help as well, not just to deal with the issues that they're facing themselves, but all of the news that they see. And I'm sure in Monterey Park, young kids, teenagers, high schoolers across were asking questions. How could this be? How did it happen? What can we do? And the state this week launched 2 very important websites available to kids 0 to 12, and then another one for 13 to young adults to up to 26 to support 24/7 their behavioral health needs. What does that mean? Real life people to talk to if that's what they want, but available tools to begin to address some of these under-addressed needs. And if we are going to have this healing and hope translate into real change for our community, we need to continue to build these tools and support one another. And I'm proud on behalf of the governor to be here, an administration that has supported not just the work on gun violence and gun control, but those upstream issues of behavioral health and health in general, to make sure that not just Monterey Park, but communities across California have what they need. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here today. I'd next like to invite our state senator, Susan Rubio, to join us and share a few words.
Good afternoon. For me, it's really important for all of us to come together today. As I hear all our speakers, I think the overarching theme is healing a year later. I think Congresswoman Judy mentioned that we were all there that day, a few hours before the tragedy, and I can't help but think that this individual could have been at the Lunar New Year, where we were all on stage, really exposed, and it could have been anybody. And so it brings me back to that particular day, how I felt very conflicted. At the same time, I was grieving for the families, but at the same time, I was fearful for all of us that just stood on that stage for hours as we celebrated the Lunar New Year. And it's just an indication of how fragile this situation is and how much more we need to do. I do want to thank our statewide officials, Rob Bonta, who's been such an ally to the legislature, our Lieutenant Governor, who's always been in the forefront of asking the questions, how can she help and how can she be involved? Of course, the governor, who's always leading the charge. And we already talked about how California is leading, and we are leading in so many ways. But one of the things that I like to focus on is that as much as California does, it doesn't protect us, because there's been tragedies in our state where the guns are purchased across the border. And so we can say no to guns and keep our Californians safe. But if our neighboring states are not doing what California is doing, it doesn't keep us safe. And so I just want to call on all our neighboring states and across our nation that we need to do this together. Our children are losing this battle. As a teacher for almost 20 years, I can tell you one memory that stands out from one tragedy in particular, and that was the Uvalde, Texas shooting, where a fourth grader said that as his little friends were being shot at, he got under the body of one of the deceased and took the blood, put it all over his face, because that's the only way he thought he can survive. And so this is not the adults doing the work now. These are our kids that are doing the work. And I hope all the other states are listening, because we need to do better to protect our children. I often say we used to have earthquake drills and have our kids get under the tables. And lately we're having consistent lockdown drills. What do we do if there's an active shooter? And I want all of us to think what we're putting on our kids. They're supposed to just show up and learn, be ready to learn. Think of the material, think of how they succeed academically. And most are now bogged down with the idea of, where do I run to? Where do I hide? What do I do? So this is an important issue that all of us need to come together on. And I want to just say to our first responders who were incredible, thank you for that. This was certainly one of those moments where federal, state, and local officials really came together to hold hands and say, what do we do? And you've heard everyone talk about everything that's been done. In our house, in particular, I belong to the Gun Violence Prevention Working Group. And as legislators, we work every single day to tackle this issue and come up with legislation that's going to protect our kids, our community, and all of us in general. So I want to say thank you for this opportunity to come and say to Monterey Park, we're still with you. We haven't forgotten. And Monterey Park Strong is now even a more important word than ever, because we came out on the other side and we're building that resiliency, and we're here to say the work continues. We haven't forgotten, and we'll continue to work to ensure that all of us are safe and our families are safe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'd next like to invite our State Assemblymember, Mike Fong, who's been an amazing ally and a champion of gun violence this year in California. I know there's many moms here who can attest to that. I'd like to invite our Assemblymember, Mike Fong.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the Mayor Pro Tem and the Monterey Park City Council, and to everyone here to continue to uplift the community during these very challenging times. The theme of healing and hope today, as you heard from our prior speakers, the work and collaboration at all levels of government with our federal partners, our state partners, and our local partners, and with everyone here in the audience and community leaders, thank you for all the actions you have continued to take to continue to show the resiliency and strength of Monterey Park to uplift the families impacted by this horrible, horrible tragedy. As you heard from our prior speakers, this has been a year of grief and a year of tremendous loss, but at the same time, the resiliency of the community. And I'm so grateful for all of you for everything you do to continue to uplift the families impacted, the community impacted by this tragedy. In terms of policy, as you heard from Mayor Sanchez actually came to Sacramento a few times, along with Moms Demand Action and elected officials, to advocate for stronger gun violence prevention measures. And I see some of the folks here in the audience here today. This was referenced earlier, but Assembly Bill 732, which strengthens the process for removing firearms from those who should not own them due to criminal conviction. We know that there's 24,000 people in California, the AG referenced the APPS database, that are prohibited from being allowed to own a gun. They've been convicted of a felony, a serious misdemeanor, or crime. And so we need to continue to do everything we can to decrease gun violence. And as you heard from our senator, the Gun Violence Prevention Working Group that I'm also a part of, with the governor and our legislature, we got 20 gun violence prevention bills passed last year. And with Assembly Bill 732, also with Assembly Bill 1638, you heard from our supervisor around translation access, and our Congresswoman mentioned that as well. But we need to continue to do more to ensure that during emergencies, such as a mass shooting or natural disaster, that updates from local agencies are provided in languages other than English. And so now with this bill passing, it states that any community that has a population that speaks another language other than English, at least 5% or more, will have to have that information translated in language. And this would apply to Monterey Park and to many communities in the San Gabriel Valley and throughout our state of California. And with Moms Demand Action, and to all our local partners here and city officials, thank you so much for everything you've done to continue to work on gun violence prevention. And as Deji mentioned also, we secured $4 million of state funding to educate the public and law enforcement about gun violence restraining orders. Just a few days ago, I joined the Monterey Park City Council for a gun violence restraining order training just at the Monterey Park City Hall across the street. And we want to make sure that we continue to provide that information in language to make sure that we're taking away guns from folks that should not be having them. And with the California Victim Compensation Board, we know that grateful to them and their work and efforts to really make sure that they're working directly with the survivors to ensure that their applications have been processed quickly and that we continue to answer any questions that they may have. And also to the Monterey Park Resiliency Center and to Peter Ng and the Chinatown Service Center, thank you for everything you've done to continue to provide that hope and inspiration for our community and for all the survivors. And to everyone here today, this has been, to hear all the work that's being done. We know that there's a lot more work to be done, and know that you have a partner in the state legislature and here with all of everyone here today that was to continue to uplift and continue to remember the lives lost and to really make sure that we continue to impact and really make sure that we are uplifting the community each and every day on the ground. And to our public responders, first responders, to Brendan Tsay, to everyone here, thank you for all the community groups, for your advocacy and direct services. We're going to continue to push hard. We know there's a lot more work to be done, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you to continue to uplift the city of Monterey Park, the San Gabriel Valley, and the state of California. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assemblymember. I'd next like to invite our Sheriff Robert Luna, who was an amazing partner and ally in those very first minutes and hours of our tragedy, but has been a great ally since. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much, Mayor. A lot of great people in this room have said a lot of things, so I've been scratching things off on my notes as time has been going. But I do want to highlight what I believe to be three very important points. The most important point is why we're here today, and that's to honor the victims. I've spent 37 years of my life wearing a badge, and to me, it's all about victims. So as this night goes on, remember their lives and what was stolen from their families forever. That's why we're here. Number two is to support the survivors. And as I say that, earlier today, or yesterday, I'm sorry, I read a summary of the DOJ report that talked about the shooting at the school in Uvalde, which was mentioned a little while ago. And although I haven't read it all and don't know all the details, one of the things they really focused on was the failure of the first responders to immediately go into this building. Obviously, in law enforcement, we'll learn, but I can tell you this, and I do want to acknowledge both of them because they're both in here. We've talked about the first responders, and if I could have the police chief of Monterey Park stand just momentarily, Scott Weiss, you're in the room, right? The Monterey Park police officers, who all of us should be very proud of, within a minute, they were in that building. No hesitation. They responded. There would be no federal report about their lack of response. You were amazing. Your men and women were amazing. As a fellow law enforcement official, I'm very proud of you and your leadership and what you did. And then the fire chief, if you could please stand, Matthew Hollett from Monterey Park. No hesitation, you guys worked together going in there. And please remember, as we're talking about survivors, we're talking about the victims and their families, but yet not one cop that went in that building or one fireman that went in that building will ever forget what they saw. So we always focus on employee wellness. We will continue to do that. So thank you guys. You guys are heroes. I appreciate everything you've done. Also, when you think of all the great things that happened, I remember getting here in Monterey Park early that morning, and for all the city officials that I encountered, the Monterey Park, whether it's police, fire, man, you couldn't have run into better people who just wanted to do everything they could to help. So they always tell you in the middle of bad things, look for the good things. And Monterey Park, you have so much to be proud of. Not only everybody I've mentioned, for all of you as elected officials, your community just rallied around. And you are an example to the rest of the country as to how somebody should behave after a tragedy like this. So be very proud in the middle of us grieving for the victims and survivors. And Brandon, we've said a lot about you, but to see what you did that day, and the offer still stands. I'm still trying to recruit you, my brother. I'm still trying to recruit you. If Monterey Park doesn't steal you first, or Alhambra, who's in the house as well. Just amazing good things that happened. And then just as I wrap up here, moving forward, what are we talking about? There's great leaders up here. They've all talked about it. The Attorney General talked about his department, the Armed Prohibitor Possessor Program. Thank you, because I know our agency actively works, and you would be shocked as to how many weapons we're taking off the streets every day from people who have no business with a gun. We've talked about guns coming in and out and what's being purchased. I can tell you, and I could spend a lot of time, and I won't, we have to pay attention to the issue of ghost guns. Ghost guns are everywhere. They are being used in so many crimes, and although we're talking about mass shootings, we collectively could never forget about all the victims of gun violence, and it occurs every day. Just on the way here, I got a notification about a double shooting in East Los Angeles, one that resulted in a murder. It happens every day. I'm tired of reading those notifications. We need to stand together. We need to make gun access a top priority in this country, just like we do in our state. Something was mentioned about Proposition 1. I can't get into it. I'm in uniform. And next time I take off my uniform, I'll tell you about Prop 1 and how excited I am. That's all I'll say as far as I go. With that being said, I'm very proud to be one of the many people who contributed to this effort. And I won't give up the mic until I really send props to the Homicide Bureau for the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, who had this suspect, who I will not talk about, in custody within 17 hours. So thank you very much, and I look forward to being around all of you.
Thank you so much. And I think the sheriff has already given us our call to action and a piece that we could potentially work on as a team to make a difference in our communities. I'd next like to invite Peter Ng, who's been an amazing ally and partner with the Chinatown Service Center and the establishment of the Monterey Park Resiliency Center as well. I got a chance to visit and do some lanterns, which you'll see painted out there tonight. In fact, one of my former students is helping run the center. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mayor. I am so honored to be here among all of the leaders in the community, my colleague organization, that all through this year, it brings the community together, all the way from the president down to the state, the county, the city. Actions were taken because, being a 40-year resident of Monterey Park, after the pandemic, this happened, and yet everyone put together. And we in Chinatown Service Center, being here in Monterey Park for over 25 years, it is our obligation, our duty, to be of service to those that needed help. So the very next day when it happened, our fellow staff already there at Eleni Center, just to stand by and make sure that they can offer linguistic translation help and things like that. And we have not stopped since. And throughout the process, Congressman Judy Chu personally met every single victim and hear what they need. And then we will stand by along with many of my colleague organizations to offer the help, raise funds, down to documentation like death certificates from the county, and they were expediting it, waiving the fee, just to make sure that the families can go through such tremendous tragedy that they would not have any obstacles. And throughout this 1 year, excuse me, it seems like 2 years is that long, we gone through many challenges. The victims, they were so traumatized, they would not talk about it. We had a hard time locating some of them because of privacy issues, and not just the 20 of them, but later on, more than 50 more, probably a lot more, have serviced. Then we know our work, we got our work cut out for us. And luckily, the support from everyone, it's just make our job a lot easier. Namely, the city of Monterey Park, immediately they say, hey, Peter, CSC, if you need anything, we are here. So we started this counseling session right here in the library, just to be available if they need to talk to anyone. That was started in April. And then in August, City of Monterey Park, they assigned one of the recreation center over at Sierra Vista Park for us to set up shop permanently, partnership with our many nonprofit organizations, of which 3 of them are here today as a panel. And we started in August, and we have already held about over 300 workshops, over 6,000 touch points. And we outgrew that. So we are going to relocate to a new location on Atlantic Boulevard, a little bit more bigger, but this is not possible without the help of all of you, especially from the federal government. Congresswoman Judy Chu going to help us to make sure, because even though that we have 3 dance workshops, of which the Star Dance Studio, the owner, Maria Leung, is here with us, and she showed tremendous bravery and came out, and that means a lot to the victims. So in this workshop over in Eleni Center, over 200 attended. However, you see them dance away and seemingly everything is okay, but when they go home, things reflect back to them. And that's where all the nonprofit and also the counseling organization come in. But I think going ahead, looking forward, if we get together with this, we know, even though it's such tragedy, but we can learn from it, and the action that everyone has shown, it really proved that this is a great country. I don't think that in the world, when tragedy such as this happened, have not as a great effort as what we have performed this last year. So I want to thank each and every one of you for the support on behalf of the victims. We will continue the effort and build for a better tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Peter. I'd next like to invite Debra Boudreaux from the Buddhist Suchi Foundation to share a few words. Thank you so much for being here.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Peter. It's been a long year. We talk about healing, we talk about hope. Peter mentioned about a lot of them, 6,000 touching points coming to the space. We provide various counseling services from art, from music, from health dancing, bring them back to the community, to the table. The most important right now, what we try to encourage them is mitigation adaptation plan. Listos, California, Listos means ready. So we share with them, if something happened, what you can do, what your family can do. So as a faith-based organization and community-based organization, we serve as a bridge to provide all the resources tool to the community and to let them know they are not alone. Every Wednesday, we provide cultural, we provide socio-economic, we provide chanting. We give them a peace, their self-reflection, identify which sutra will help them to ease their anxiety. The population who join with us is not only the family members, it's also the survivors, the community around there. So this program at this moment is going to be needed. And I'm very grateful, Judy, you can help us to make this happen. The AAPI is very, very siloed and very, very quiet. And some space like this is important. Thank you, Peter, and thank you, everyone. You help us to take care of all the policy, and we, as a community grassroots, we deliver your resources to the right people at the right time, using the right language. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd next like to invite Connie Chung, CEO of AJ SoCal, to join us and share a few words. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Within 24 hours of the shooting, 10 API nonprofit organizations came together, including many of our partners here. And we decided on two things. One was we were going to create a victims fund on GoFundMe, and we were going to create an Asian Pacific Islander resource directory that would go online and provide information about things like legal services and counseling and other support. Within 48 hours, we had raised more than $500,000, and within 13 days, we had raised over $1 million. And at the same time, we were continuing to work with our partners to make sure our community members knew about counseling, legal services, victims advocacy. And we were also trying to deal with a tremendous amount of misinformation, disinformation, and lack of information that we were hearing and being bombarded with our community. And what I think about reflecting on 1 year today, a couple things that I think about is the sadness that this was not the first, nor will it be the last mass shooting that happens to our Asian Pacific Islander community. We saw Half Moon Bay, we've seen Laguna Woods, we've seen Allen, Texas, and this continues, unfortunately, to happen. And what I realized in reflecting in all the work that we were trying to do, that to a certain extent, it felt that government and community organizations, we were sort of working in parallel universes, where I know my community partners so well that we could work closely together. And government was working very closely together, but there was a gap. So, even though we had $500,000 in our GoFundMe account by Tuesday, I couldn't find who was the government agency I needed to reach out to verify the victims and start finding out how do we get the money to them. And we understand that first responders certainly can't, for privacy reasons, give us the name of victims, but certainly if we could say there's money to be given, they could relay that to victims. And unfortunately, those first 48 to 72 hours that are so critical, there were missed opportunities because we were not working in close alignment. We met community members who didn't realize for over 24 hours that the gunman had died and people thought he was still on the loose. We had community members who were still trying to figure out for several days, how do I get my cell phone back? How do I get my car, which is still at the dance studio? We had people who were scared to go to Langley Center because they thought, if I asked for counseling services, could I get locked up for being crazy? Because there's still stigma around mental health in our community. Or they didn't want to go in front of the cameras and the media and the public that you would have to go across to get to DMH or to the victims' advocates. And so my lesson learned from all of these things is, despite the incredible systems we have in LA County with our infrastructure and government, and I'm very proud of having a Department of Mental Health that has so many API languages and led by someone like Dr. Lisa Wong. And despite being so proud of the robustness of both the government agencies who understand the API community and our nonprofits who understand the API community, I reflect back at so many missed opportunities in those first critical 48, 72 hours where we were not in close contact between the nonprofits and those first responder organizations who had access to the victims. And as I think about as we move forward, and there will be more mass shootings that impact our API communities, I know every municipality has a rapid response and a mass shooting system. And you know what law enforcement or victims advocates organizations you're going to tap into, and that makes sense that you have that infrastructure. But that you would be more proactive to thinking about including the community-based organizations that are on the ground and could provide that feedback loop to you in real time about what the community is feeling and saying and scared about, and that you would be more proactive, not to think of us several days later, but at the moment, include us as real partners in your effort to reach the community. Because it's hard, our community speaks many languages, we have different cultures, and you don't know if you're gonna have to use WhatsApp, Kakao, Line, or WeChat to reach us, but we can tell you that. And we can tell you that this community is not going to go to a government agency because they're scared of deportation and mixed feelings about government, and that maybe having some community organizations is the way to go. And we all worked it out eventually, and I think I'm very proud of what we did in partnership with one another, but it took a couple days more than it should have. And so that would be what I would ask of our government institutions to think about as you go back to your rapid response and mass shooting systems, to think about how more proactively include in that policy to reach out to community-based organizations from the very beginning so we could partner with you better and more efficiently and more promptly. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to invite Laura Abbasi, who is the Director of California here for Moms Demand Action. I had an opportunity to meet her this year and work closely with Moms Demand Action. Thank you for being here today.
Hi, everyone. As he said, I'm Laura Abbasi. I'm with Everytown for Gun Safety. And it really is the privilege of my lifetime to support our volunteers with California Moms Demand Action, volunteers like Mia Levis-Porter and Ashley Castillo with Students Demand Action, and just community members all over the state who say enough is enough. Every single day in this country, 120 people are shot and killed by firearms, and another 200 more are wounded. And this is to say nothing of the traumatized communities that are impacted, the friends, the family, which we've touched on a lot here today. And in fact, you know, what's more, by early February, the United States surpasses every other peer nation in the world for the gun deaths that they will experience for the entire year. So by early February, we've surpassed every other peer nation when it comes to firearm deaths. And this is simply unacceptable. And, you know, as someone who myself, I have gotten that call, Mia has gotten that call, Ashley has gotten that call, when someone we love has died because of firearms. And I think when I'm thinking about the Monterey Park community and so many personal stories that probably many of us share, the one word that really does come to mind is courage. Every day people have the courage to go back to work. Everyday people have the courage to go to these jobs that are very, very hard. First responders, folks working in the mental health space. Every day our lawmakers at the local, the state, the federal level have the courage to propose new policies, new solutions, to do, frankly, things that some people say are impossible. Earlier, Attorney General Bonta talked about AB 28, that people literally told us was impossible, and it was thanks to so many people who said enough is enough that they made the impossible possible, and they passed that bill. In fact, many of the state lawmakers here stood up and bravely voted for that bill and didn't give up and were relentless champions, and they do that every single day. And so, you know, as we're in this process of healing, you know, continue having courage. Brandon, the ultimate picture of courage. But there's something that each of us can do. Just every day by doing it in your own way. If you're a responsible gun owner, you know, securely lock your firearms. You know, ask when you're taking your kids out to a play date or something, you know, ask about how, if a person owns guns and how they're stored. There's just literally so many things that like every single person can do to help make this country safer from gun violence. And again, that's just every day. I'm filled with hope. A long time ago when my brother died by gun, people told me, what can you do? And I think we all know there's a lot we can do. And it starts with each one of us. And I'm so grateful to Mayor Sanchez. Like he said, we were sending out some text messages, inviting people to our advocacy day. And he just very humbly says, I'll be there. And then, you know, we text our volunteers, we talk to them, we make plans, and he kind of wedges in there that he's the mayor of Monterey Park. And we were just so thankful. I know that his voice really made an impact, and everyone's voice really can make an impact. We are a gun sense majority. We do not have to live and die this way. So thank you so much for coming together. Thanks everyone here for your courage. And I know that you're gonna continue moving forward with that courageous spirit. So I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, and all of your advocacy work that you do. I'd next like to invite Billy Chun, the Chief Operating Officer of PACE. And I do want to remind our last few speakers that we're running out of time, so please try to keep it short. Sorry I have to do that, sir.
No worries, no worries. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor, City Council, distinguished elected officials. Thank you for inviting me here to say a few words. I think listening to all these other speakers, I think every person in their own unique way has been affected by the tragedy in very different ways. And I'll take a pause to kind of talk about from my standpoint, from a personal and professional level. You know, there's just so many thoughts and ideas that kind of ran through my head. As a former deputy mayor for the city of Los Angeles, I applaud the local leaders, and you know, there's no playbook on how you respond to something like that. You just don't. And you know, the courage and the commitment that they shown to respond to this tragedy, and then I would say, you know, a continued call to arms. Well, maybe that's a bad word. Just a continued call to continue to channel resources to this municipality, to these causes. You know, our state and federal officials and representatives have done an amazing job to do that, and I think we shouldn't lose sight of that. As a son of an immigrant parent, I know how difficult it is for some of the things have been talked about in terms of cultural language challenges. You know, my mom's My mom has been a registered nurse for 40 years, and it's extremely difficult for her to go get regular checkups, even though she's practiced as a health professional for all these years. And that's a continuing challenge. And as a father of 3 kids, I think it's very important for us to show an example of how to deal with this tragedy, how to deal with mental health. It is very much a taboo in Eastern culture. And I think the example that we've shown, the public statements that we have made, will reflect on those younger generations that look at that, view that, and hopefully take that to heart. As a son of a father that was also killed by a firearm in Koreatown, I echo and advocate for every which way we can, any gun law. I mean, I know the state of California leads in this effort. As California goes, hopefully the rest of the country goes. And so there's just, I can't say enough about any advocacy, any law that we can put in place. And then just lastly, as mentioned, I am the COO of a CBO, a nonprofit, Pacific Asian Consortium in Employment. We stepped into this challenge just like along with all the cadre of community organizations, really to help businesses. We assist with small business loans, technical assistance, and part of the rebuilding of the community, any which way we can help. And so we're so happy to do that, to pitch in where we can, thanks to our partner with the SBA, and as well as the county, and delivering those resources that they immediately threw on the table and wanted to help. We helped with our business counselors that speak those languages and able to help any small business owner here affected in the community. So with that, I'll just say thank you for the invite and look forward to the next year of reflection, which hopefully presses upon many more lessons learned. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like to invite next Sheila Wu from the Asian Pacific Counseling and Treatment Centers to share a few words. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor. I will keep it short. I'm Sheila Wu. I am the director at the Asian Pacific Counseling and Treatment Centers. I am also a licensed psychologist. So I was very happy to hear Dr. Ghaly talk about mental health and behavioral health. And also, of course, Congresswoman Judy Chu, who really was very instrumental in just helping pushing a lot of the services forward. So on the very next day after the tragic event, myself and my staff went out on the streets on Garvey, talked to the business owners, talked to the peoples on the street. We purposely did not go to Langley because we knew there were a lot of resources out there already with Dr. Wong and DMH. On Monday, I went to my alma mater, Brightwood School. I grew up in Monterey Park, graduated from Alhambra High School. And so my team and I, we went out to the schools, and I have to tell you, it was heartbreaking to talk to the students. Some of you have heard me talk about one of a 5-year-old kindergartner who told me that he was so scared that he wants to go buy a gun so he can protect his grandmother. And it just broke my heart. I spent so much time talking with him at the school and did a lot of follow-up with the parents and the family. And as you know, it just really breaks my heart to see a young child looking at the news, listening, fearing for his life and for his grandmother. So we continue to provide services at the schools, at the businesses. And even without funding, we volunteer, we walk the streets. So last year, maybe a couple months after all the hype, Brandon reached out to me and said, you know, mental health issue is so important. And I said, yeah, we need to really do some prevention work. As Dr. Chu said, there are warning signs. So if we could do preventive work, there's a lot of tragedy that could have been prevented. And so Brandon and I met several times, and we brainstormed and said, what should we focus our energy on this year in 2023, the rest of the year? And we thought, let's target the youth. Let's target the older adults. Which community is the most vulnerable? So we said, older adults, because they're still isolated, they're still scared, they don't want to go out to the house, they don't want to go out dancing, they don't want to go to the supermarket, there's so much crime. So we partnered together, and we started a Heroes for Change project. And so we have been doing a whole bunch of workshops that target mental health promotion, mental health wellness. Our goal is to empower our older adults so that they can stand strong again, because our older adults are who defines the Asian community. We just love and value the older adults in our community. So we just poured our heart and our energy out and say, let's get them together. So last Saturday, we had an event at Lai Lai Ballroom. A lot of people came out to dance, to celebrate life. We knew that at the anniversary, the eve of the anniversary, a lot of people are going to have certain triggers that come up. So we were ready to talk to them. So we had clinicians at the ballroom talking to the participants. There were a lot of victims and families that were there that day. So we will continue to do the work. 2024, Year of the Dragon, we will still push forward. We will continue on with the projects. Regardless of whether we get funding or not, of course, it's better if we have money. But we will be there for our community, and we were not going anywhere. So thank you so much for this opportunity today.
Thank you so much for sharing. My daughter also goes to Brightwood Elementary, so thank you for sharing that. This is actually a really good segue into our next speaker. We purposely left Brandon at the end so that you would be here and not leave, because I know you're very interested to hear him speak. So, Brandon, without further ado, if you can come up and share a few words.
Good evening, honored guests and members of our resident community. Thank you for having me here today and having me speak. I just want to be thankful for all our elected officials and community leaders today who came out to stand to support us and to be in solidarity with us. I just want to mention what this day feels like for me. And I feel that today we gather here to mark the anniversary of a tragic act that has shattered the hearts of our community. But at the same time, this moment is also used to celebrate the strength, unity, and healing that has defined our community in the past year. It is with a heavy heart that we remember the pain and loss that we have endured. I'm grateful to acknowledge the efforts that we have made as a collective journey towards this healing in this great city of Monterey Park. Not only did we extend our deepest sympathies to the families, but we also extended it to the loved ones who continue to bear the weight of absence. So I want to stand here today in solidarity with others who offer unwavering support to the emotions that still linger since the shooting. However, today, I don't want it to be solely about looking back and understanding the sorrow. I want it to be looking forward to recognize the incredible spirit that has been displayed in our community. These bonds we forged in the midst of such tragedy and adversity has given rise to this united pursuit of hope in mental wellness, in public safety, as mentioned as our elected officials in restricting gun control. So together, we are not just victims, we are a community of heroes that thrives for a brighter and safer future. Thank you, and may we all continue to aspire to uplift this wonderful community.
Thank you, Brendan. And if we can give him a standing applause here. I'd next like to invite some of our council members who in the last year have worked so tirelessly and so hard to help Monterey Park heal. I'd like to invite Councilmember Vinh to share a few words.
I'll keep it short. Thank you, distinguished guests, for being here. Just 3 simple things: reflect, learn, move forward. Reflect on the lives who were lost, who perished. We will always love them. We will always remember them. Reflect on our first responders. Excellent job in being there that night. And also for Sheriff's Department, county, the state, the federal government, FBI, incredible work that was done. What we learned through this process is that Monterey Park is a resilient bunch. United we stand. Monterey Park strong. These are all phrases that came from our community. We also learned to work together, the coordinated efforts, so that when someone else, another city needs help, our first responders, our city manager's office, we will help and respond and provide the support they need. Because unfortunately, we have to live it. And move forward. We have to. Do you have any other choice? We just have to move forward, because that's the way our city is built, and that's the way we are as citizens of the state. Moving forward is the only option, and everything will be better over time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Go. I'd next like to invite our city treasurer, who also serves as our administrator for our MPK Healing Fund member, or for Healing Fund, sorry, Amy Lee.
Welcome. Thank you so much for coming here today. Thank you to Judy Chu from the federal government, to Bonta for enforcing the laws, to Mike Fong for doing all he has done to help protect the state of California. My name's Amy. I'm the city treasurer. I'm also the fund administrator for the Monterey Park Community Healing Fund. The fund was created in collaboration with the City of Monterey Park and the California Community Foundation, and our goal was to help Monterey Park heal. We started this with a group of 8 community members, and our goal was to help programs, initiatives to help Monterey Park heal. But very shortly, we realized that there were victims that needed help. We attended support groups, we talked to them, and we heard their pain, and we heard the need to be heard. So we were able to provide some grants. We were able to provide 41 grants in collaboration with the Chinatown Service Center and the Asians American for Advancing Justice. And we learned a lot about healing. For our community, it's not a straight path. There are people that have moved on, and there are victims that are still in pain. There actually are victims that have not even come forward yet. So we need to learn that we need to be culturally sensitive to our community, that the people are very different. I appreciate everything that the government has done, but more needs to be done. It's not over. It's a fight that we will continue to fight. More support is needed to be culturally sensitive in the mental health field. I agree, more funding does need to be allowed. There were several people I spoke to. There was one woman, she hadn't gone to work for over a month. She was menstruating 30 days straight, but she did not know where to go. She found a small community support group, and that was led by a church member. They didn't know that there were services available. In the end, what we need to do is work together and make sure that our community knows that there are resources available. We need to build better bonds. And while there's so much we have done, we need to reach out to each other across languages, across cultures, to see what they need. Sometimes making services available is not enough. We need to reach out to them. We have to make the call to them. So I urge you, community members, reach out, talk to them, talk to people, talk to your constituents, see what they need, offer them services. It's not enough that it's available. So on behalf of the Monterey Park Community Healing Fund, we thank you for your support, and we will continue this for the next year.
Thank you, Amy. I'd next like to invite Councilmember Yvonne Yu to share a few words.
Hi, everyone. It's my great honor to be with so many outstanding leaders in the room. I promise to make it short. I would like to actually take this opportunity to introduce one of my very special friends here. I know her after the mass shooting. We cried together. We lost one of our mutual friends in a mass shooting. But 2 weeks ago, we started dancing together. So she's actually at the audience. The owner of the Star Dance Studio, Marie Liang, would you like to stand up and please let people recognize you? Thank you, Maria. Thank you so much. And 2 weeks ago, all 5 council members will start dancing with the victims and also a lot of the Star Dance Studio guests. The reason why is we have the 1-year anniversary, and thank you, Chinatown Service Center, and also thanks for our Healing Fund that we put together. All 5 councils, we all show up. I'm sure our city attorney got very nervous about the Brown Act. But yeah, we dance together. We have group singing, and we are very happy. And I wanted to tell everyone that yes, we are healing well, and yes, we move forward. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Councilmember Yu. I'd next like to invite Councilmember Henry Lowe. Councilmember Lowe, if you remember, was the face of this tragedy in the first days that as it unfolded, because he was mayor at the time. I became mayor 4 days after the shooting, but it was Henry who really led us through those first tragic days. So, Henry, I know you have quite a bit to share in 1 minute.
Thank you. I will keep it short. I will begin by saying, every time I walk into City Hall, into the Council of Diocese Chambers, I look at our motto, pride in the past, faith in the future. And I think about how, as a community, we should be proud of, in the face of tragedy, we came together. All of you came together, and we expressed together what hope is. And faith in the future, we know there's a lot of work to do, but I have a lot of faith that moving forward, we will, build a better world. And for those who died, their death will not be in vain. Just coming in over here, I saw in the news that there was another shooting yesterday in Half Moon Bay at a farm worker housing community, and 1 person was injured. And this is near their 1-year anniversary. So it demonstrates the work we have to do. But I have faith that together we will forge a better future. And so thank you for coming today. Thank you for joining us at our vigil. Next weekend, I hope you all come to our Lunar New Year Festival. We'll celebrate the Lunar New Year and the Year of the Dragon. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Lowe. In closing, I'd like to also invite the Mayor Pro Tem. It was our vision that we would bring all of you together, not just to share what we have done in the last year, but also as a way to do a call to action. There's still so much work that needs to be done in our communities to make it safe. Safe not just for us, but safe for our kids, safe for our elderly community, safe for everyone. And I want to share that I'm a teacher. And in 2018, I remember this so vividly, after the shooting in Parkland, Florida. I remember my students walking into that room that day And if you're an educator, you know this feeling when your kids walk in and there's something wrong. And I know we have our school board member here from the Alhambra Unified School District. I asked him what was wrong. It was that whole week. I just sensed something was wrong. And finally, the kids started talking, and they said they just didn't feel safe. We had just had that mass shooting at, you remember Marjorie Stoneman Douglas School in Parkland, Florida. And I remember that day, and we studied and we talked what became one day, what became a week, what became several weeks, months, and the rest of the semester about this issue. And I remember after talking about this and learning about gun violence in this country, my kids said, we want to do something about this. And they wrote the very first gun control law that any high school students had ever written. And with the help of Congresswoman Judy Chu, they were able to present it to Congresswoman Chu, and Congresswoman Chu submitted it to Congress as House Resolution 1076 that year. It was the only gun control law ever written by kids that year. Yeah. So I think now where we're at, and I'm still having these same conversations in the classroom now with my daughters, who I know someone talked about earlier. I remember after the Monterey Park shooting, my daughters came home, and my daughter was telling me about how they had a lockdown drill, and she wanted to know more about it, why we were having lockdown drills, and what's an active shooter. And she's only a kindergartner. And it's a hard conversation to have. Even leaving my house today, my daughter said, I saw you in the news in the morning. What is this about the Monterey Park shooting? It's still a hard conversation to have with little kids. And it shouldn't be a conversation we're having. It really shouldn't. But we know that we live in a society where the leading cause of death for young children is gun violence. And that's very tragic. I don't want to live in a society like that. I don't want my daughters to be raised in a society like that. And I don't want my students that I see every day to go through that. So I hope that today, as we honor the 11 dead and the many other injured here, that we also pay tribute and honor them by doing something about it, by making sure that we just not honor the victims, but also honor and protect those that are not victims. All of us here. And I think all of us within our own right have some type of capacity and power to make change, to ensure that other communities are not impacted like we were in Monterey Park. And so I've told Moms Demand Action in every town, and I'm part of a new group within them, which is Mayors Against Gun Violence, and I've said I would do everything in my power to make sure that we put an end to gun violence in this country. And so that's why we're here today, and I want to give the Mayor Pro Tem also an opportunity to share some, but that's why we're here.
Thank you, Mayor. And just to close out and to summarize what we've been talking about today, right, this community, our community, would not have been as resilient in response to the tragedy if not for so many. Everyone here that poured in their care and their love and their support into our community over the past year. But we know that the road to healing is a long one and will continue for many years to come. But as was stated by a number of speakers, this doesn't have to be our normal, a normal of mass shootings every day, every other day in our country. And we have the tools, we know what we can do and need to do to make sure that this isn't normal going into the future. And as the Attorney General eloquently put it, let us turn our pain into purpose and let that purpose be of bringing healing to our community, continue to bring healing to our community, but also working to prevent this tragedy from happening in any other community around us. And so let us commit ourselves today and in the days, months, and years ahead to that work, the important work of keeping our community safe, right? I think the highest calling for all of us who serve in office. and let us work together in that effort, because that's the only way we'll find success. So thank you all so much for taking time today to join us in remembering the year since the shooting. Just some logistics in terms of what's going to happen across the street. So the visual will be across the street. The street is closed, so feel free to cross. I believe the exits are, someone point me in the right direction, this way, and then you can follow the crowd and walk over to the vigil. There will be, the vigil officially starts at 6 o'clock, but there are pre-vigil activities starting right now in the next few minutes out on the lawn of City Hall. You're welcome to join in any of those. There's a Christian prayer service and a Buddhist service as well, and other services that will be happening. Please feel free to engage in those and in others who, as they start to come into the crowd. I'm trying to see if there's any other logistics. So if you can, try to keep your badges on as you go over there, so the police officers and staff can recognize you and make sure that you can access everything that's going on. But again, thank you so much for taking the time to join with us, and your partnership and your collaboration and your support over this past year. And we look forward to continuing to partner with you and supporting each other. The system of mutual support is really what's getting us through and will get us through all the challenges ahead. So thank you so much. I'm not sure if the mayor has anything else to say.
Yes, I'd like to say just one last thing. I hope that we can meet again, and within that time frame, I hope that we've fought and we've worked together to try to create some type of change that is tangible, that we can see. In Monterey Park, we are so proud to have passed gun ordinances. I know that I see elected officials from other cities, from the city of Bell Gardens to San Gabriel, Rosemead. These are similar laws that can be easily passed within your own jurisdictions and municipalities. And so we would love to work with you and create some type of effort, either within here, the San Gabriel Valley, but more importantly throughout our country, to try to bring and curtail the acts of gun violence and the impact that it has on our community. So I hope that we will see each other again. I know we will, 1 year from now. And we not only to remember the victims, but to also regale in the type of work that we've done in the past year to create that change. And I think we've heard from a lot of our speakers, including our Congresswoman Judy Chu, about the things that we could potentially do that will change that. We heard from our sheriff about ghost guns and the real threat that that's causing, not just in our community here in Los Angeles County, but throughout the nation. So thank you so much for being here, and please join us in the vigil. Thank you.